Imagine an evening that looks completely ordinary from the outside. There is a warm light in the room. Someone is laughing too loudly. Cups are clinking in the kitchen. The phone on the table flashes with messages. Music is playing in the background. People are interrupting each other. And for most, this is normal life. But at some point, you notice a strange thing. One person begins to slowly disappear from this space. He doesn't walk away ostentatiously. He doesn't make a fuss. It doesn't ask you to turn off the music. He just gets quieter, looks up less often, answers shorter, and then goes out into the empty hallway, onto the balcony, into the bathroom, anywhere for a few minutes, as long as there are no other people's voices. From the outside, it often looks strange, awkward, even a little arrogant. People usually explain it simply. He's uncommunicative, she's too private. He's bored with people. She has a difficult personality. He pretends to be special. She doesn't know how to enjoy life. The explanation is convenient, quick, and very cursory. Because the truth is different. The love of silence very rarely means emptiness. Most often, it means overload, depth, inner work, caution, heightened perception, and a form of fatigue that almost no one else notices. Sometimes a person is drawn to silence, not because he has nothing to feel, but because he feels too much. Not because he has nothing to say, but because there is already a conversation going on inside that almost never stops. And if you feel good in silence, if you look for it after meetings, after noisy places, after even the most ordinary conversations, then perhaps you are not cold, not strange, and not broken. Maybe you just have a different inner world. In this video, we will analyze the hidden mechanisms that make silence seem empty to some, while for others, it becomes almost salvation. And the further we go, the clearer one unpleasant but important thing becomes. Sometimes the love of silence says more about a person than all his words. If you've already recognized yourself in those first few minutes, please support this video and subscribe. Now let's go deeper. Because the love of silence almost always hides not a habit, but the biography of the nervous system, memory, and soul. Silence is like a shelter from overload. There are people for whom noise is not just a background sound. For them, this is an invasion. Other people's voices, constant notifications, a TV in the background, music in a store, laughter in a cafe, someone shouting from the street. Even the usual household fuss can not only annoy, but really exhaust. Psychology has long known that different people have different thresholds of sensitivity to stimulation. The same environment will be lively and invigorating for one, but for the other it will be too dense, too loud, too heavy. And then silence becomes not a whim, but a way to regain its inner shape. You probably know that feeling. After a few hours around people, nothing terrible seemed to happen. No one was offended. There was no conflict. There was no drama. But it's like a string is already stretched inside. Even the people you love start to sound too loud. Even a kind question causes hidden irritation. Even one's own name, uttered at the wrong moment, feels like another drop into a long, overflowing vessel. And then you're not looking for an event, but an absence of events. Not a conversation, but a pause. Not a company, but a space where they don't want anything from you. From the outside, it looks like detachment. It's like a person is tired of everything. But in fact, this is often not a rejection of people, but an attempt not to collapse under too many signals. Such people often seem calm until the moment of overload sets in. And that's when they either abruptly go into silence, or become irritable, or feel guilty that they can no longer be inclusive and gentle. There is a bitter price here. The world is very fond of noisy, fast, socially convenient people. The world rarely notices those who need silence to recover. Therefore, a person can consider his sensitivity to be a weakness for years. He can force himself to be more comfortable, more sociable, more cheerful. He may be ashamed that after an ordinary day, he does not need a holiday, but silence in an empty room. But it's not always a weakness. Sometimes it's the accuracy of the setting. Sometimes the nervous system just catches more than we would like, and then silence is needed not to escape from life, but to return to oneself. Remember this thought: those who seek silence do not always run away from the world. Sometimes he tries to survive in his too loud version. Silence is like a space of inner life. There is another reason that is talked about less often. For some people, silence is not empty. The silence is thick for them. They have too much movement, associations, memories, observations, unspoken thoughts, images and questions inside them to need constant external noise. Where the other gets bored, they start having real inner work. You might have noticed it for yourself. You're sitting alone, nothing much is happening, but a whole world is unfolding inside. You remember an old conversation and suddenly realize how you really felt then. You notice a connection between today's irritation and something that happened a long time ago. You hear the intonation of the person and already understand what he is hiding behind the words. You can be motionless on the outside for hours, but you can live whole chapters on the inside. Such a condition is inconvenient for society, because it doesn't give a spectacle, it doesn't make any noise, it does not prove itself externally. And that's why people are often told that if they feel good alone and in silence, it means they are too self-absorbed, living in their heads, disconnected from life. But there is a paradox here. Sometimes it is those who are more often in silence who feel life more deeply. It's just that their way of living it is not so ostentatious. However, this one also has its own shadow. A rich inner life is not always a gift. Sometimes it's an endless internal analysis, introspection, reliving old scenes, searching for meanings where others just move on. Such a person may seem calm, but inside he may be tired of his own depth. He may love silence not only because it's beautiful, but also because it's the only place where his inner world stops colliding with someone else's and gets a chance to line up. And here, an important revolution is taking place. What seems to many to be isolation is often a consequence of the fact that a person really has something to be alone with. It is not emptiness that makes silence pleasant. Sometimes the silence is filled with too intense inner life. The strong phrase here sounds like this: silence scares those who are empty inside and becomes a home for those who have the whole universe inside. Silence is like recovering from someone else's presence. There are people who don't get tired of doing things, but they get tired of being present, even from the kind, even from a loved one, even from someone who has done nothing wrong. And it's very difficult to explain, because it sounds almost cruel. It's like you don't appreciate people. It's like there's something wrong with you, since you need to recover from communication, not just conflict. But human psychology is much more complicated than social slogans about the fact that proper intimacy should only please. In fact, any interaction requires energy. You're adjusting to someone else's rhythm. You read the mood. You choose your words. You control your facial expression. You're holding my attention. Even if communication is warm, it still involves the nervous system. And if you're naturally observant, cautious, and sensitive, this involvement takes a lot out of you. This gives rise to a strange feeling of guilt. You seem to love a person, but after meeting, you want silence. You seemed happy to see each other, but then you don't answer anyone for several hours. You seem to be laughing with everyone, and in the evening, you sit in a dark room and feel like you're getting your breath back. And the most painful thing here is that others often perceive it as cooling. It's like if you need a break after socializing, it means you're not open enough, not warm enough, not loving enough. But no, sometimes a person needs a break precisely because they turn on too much, because he lives in contact too much, reads too much, lets in someone else's state too deeply. His tiredness does not mean indifference. She often talks about the intensity of the inner work that no one sees, and yet the price is serious. Such people often lose part of a relationship, not because they don't know how to love, but because they can't be constantly available. They often look complicated to those who confuse intimacy with continuous contact. It is difficult for them to explain that silence after communication does not always mean distance. Sometimes this is a repair after overloading. Remember, someone who needs silence after people doesn't always push the world away. Sometimes he just puts himself back together. Silence as a defense against intrusion. Now we come to a darker layer. For some people, silence is associated not only with sensitivity and inner life, but also with the experience of breaking boundaries. If you were often interrupted, devalued, controlled, pressured, pulled reactions out of you, forced to explain, justify, be comfortable, then sooner or later, silence may become your last territory that no one will take away. There are people who have learned silence not from character, but from history. In childhood, their words were not taken seriously. Their emotions were ridiculed or declared wrong. Their questions were annoying. Their weakness was exploited. Their sincerity became a weapon against them. And then a simple but rigid logic is formed inside. The less I say, the less they'll get into me. The quieter I am, the harder it is to hurt me. The less people know about me, the safer I live. From the outside, it looks like closeness, coldness, distrust. But if you look deeper, it's often a defensive architecture. Not a pose, not a game, no desire to appear mysterious. It's a survival skill. Such a person may be very fond of silence because no one in it requires an immediate reaction. No one gets into my head. No one takes away the right to internalize